Hey, good morning, my DU. We are so excited to see y'all again. It's another Friday. Welcome to our Campus Life and Student Services Zoominar. Today, we are really excited to have our friends from Business and Finance join us. They have some important updates for you. As always, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A box, and we will gladly answer them. We'll either answer them right in the moment or we'll save them for the end. Whenever you want to ask, though, just put it in there. So we're excited. We're going to start today off with Mr. Johnson. I will allow him to introduce himself, and then you know the other panelists, but they will introduce themselves as well. So we'll get started.
So, good afternoon, everyone. As Dr. Williams said, my name is Ralph Johnson. I'm the Vice President for Business and Finance here at Dillard University. And today I'm happy to be joined by Mr. Terry Simon, who's Director of Telecommunications, and Ms. Michelle Matthew, who is Director of our Auxiliary Service. And she's actually wearing another hat for me lately in regards to just kind of working on the day-to-day operations associated with facilities. And that's what we are excited to discuss with you this afternoon. Some of the changes, improvements that we've been doing on the facility side. And as well as Mr. Simon will give an update on the Wi-Fi and things, some other things on technology. So that's what I'm going to kind of start off the presentation this morning with some information on Williams Hall. I know many of you had some concerns with Williams during the last semester, and I hope everyone can see the screen now. And I'm also going to start that. There we go. So just to give the campus an update on Williams Hall, we've kind of nicknamed this presentation From Drab to Fab. If you don't like that, blame Michelle, but no, I'm just cheating. But no, we all know that Williams Hall faces some challenges. It's our oldest building, or one of our oldest buildings on campus. So as you can see, Williams was built in 1946 with almost 50,000 square feet, 3 stories. And really the last time we did any major renovations in that building was in the fall of 27 after Hurricane Katrina. So some of our primary goals were to improve the HVAC systems there, to address any mold remediation and abatement, dealing with the rooftop vents, and then just overall reducing operation and maintenance costs associated with that building. Some of the challenges we faced when we looked at Williams, though, is that there was a short break. During the Christmas holiday break, that was a short time period to kind of get in there and do some of the things that needed to be done. But we did want to address some of that low-hanging fruit, I'll call it, to before the students return. And then also, students are living in that building right now. So some of the major projects we can't do while the building is occupied. And then we do have a bid and procurement process here at the university for costs that are over $5,000. So, and that's just to ensure that the university is getting the best bang for its money. So sometimes that bid process can add a bit of a delay as well. Also some of the challenges that we looked at, we knew that some of the dampers in the building were malfunctioning, and that those dampers help to kind of circulate the airflow in that building. We found out we had some non-working exhaust fans, and then also remediation efforts that were due to the plenum. And then Williams is serviced by 4 boilers. So, it's 4 boilers, and at one time we had 3 of them that were out for repairs, but we've been able to address those as well. In regards to the renovations, we really wanted to identify those rooms that may have been heavily affected by mold spores. Again, I just talked about had the need for repairing the boiler systems and also the ventilation systems, to keep the air moving and that as well too. And then also the air handling units just some regular maintenance that was required on that to address the environmental concerns. So here's what we did. We broke this up into 3 phases. Phase 1 was what we did last year, what we were able to do starting on December 7th, and that first phase ended really on January 8th, because we had an additional week there. So that's when everybody was home for the Christmas break, and we could get in there and address some of the immediate needs. Phase 2 is really what we're into now. And that means, with people in the building, what we'll be able to do while the building is occupied until the end of the semester. And then phase 3 will be after the school year is ended and the building is empty, and then we can really get in there and address some of the major projects that we need to do. So during phase 1, and I won't go through each one of these line by line, but you can see there were multiple things that Ms. Matthew and her team and the facilities department was able to accomplish during phase 1. We identified the rooms that were heavily impacted by non-functioning or faulty equipment, and that was done as of January 8th. Repairing, again, major HVAC equipment, the air handling units, and I've got some photos that'll address a lot of this coming up in the presentation. At the time that we did that on January 8th, that was about 90% complete, but Michelle might be able to update us on some of those things as well too. Again, just targeting those rooms that we knew had issues or identified by the residential life staff as well too, in order to make repairs there. We removed and replaced some sheetrock and then also some insulation in various areas of the campus. As I mentioned, ITT was able to get in there and also do some improvements in the Wi-Fi, and Mr. Simon will be able to speak to that in a moment as well. So again, these are some of the things that we started, like I said, early December, and we were able to complete a lot of these as of January 8th, 2021. These are a list of some other things that we were also able to get in there. Again, just cleaning the AC vents, the sprinkler head systems, those showers that really needed some cleaning or even some replacements. We were able to do that. Detailed cleaning and sanitizing and all of the common areas. Again, looking at the air handling units to make sure that those are functioning as they should. And then also, keeping our pest control schedule up to date and even doing some additional things over the break as well. In phase 2, so that's phase 1. Like I said, that was during the holiday break where, although the U.S. students were not there, but you still had your belongings there. So we were still limited on some of the things that we could do, but we knew there were some things that we could address. In phase 2, which is now, starting in January 11th, this is what we'll continue to do over the semester, again, to kind of mitigate any issues associated with Williams Hall. So again, changing, one of the things we changed the thermostats to more energy efficient devices, ensuring preventative maintenance is done on a month-to-month basis as well too. Again, just like, on your home, you have to change your filters. Your parents change the filters on your air conditioning systems every 6 months. Well, we have to make sure that we're doing those kind of things to our HVAC systems as well too on a regular basis. So we'll continue to do that, monitoring air quality checks, and then also completing furniture and appliance upgrades. Some of you may have seen some new furniture that we've been able to place in some of the buildings, as well as outdoor furniture as well too. So we'll continue to do these processes throughout the semester, again, just to monitor those things. And then in phase 3, this will be after the semester, really during the summer of 2021. This is when we can really get in there and do any of the heavy lifting that may be required. And meaning, replacement of major HVAC equipment, vents, those kind of things that you really can't do while people are living in the building, because one, one, we may have to turn off the power in order to do those things. And two, it just may, just upset some of the structure that's there. So that's a list of the things that we have targeted after the end of the semester during the summer of 2021. So just to give you an idea of, or some pictures, some visuals of what the existing conditions were, we've included, some of the things that we were able to identify, again, in Williams Hall as we, looked at the system. So if you can see here, this is the facility staff looking at the air handling units and the dampers. If you can see the arrow right here, this is an example of a damper that's supposed to open and close on a regular basis, again, to keep the air circulating and modifying. In some cases, the dampers weren't opening like they should, or we also had a schedule that makes sure they do it on a particular timely basis. So we had a faulty control switch, which is identified in this lower picture here. So this gives you, again, just a visual of some of the things that we were working with in that particular building. Again, other examples of the dampers and then the damper control panel here. So again, we kind of looked at that. We brought in some consultants where needed to make those changes as well. But this gives you a visual of some of the existing conditions. This is an example of a plenum. And you can see from the description here, this picture to the far left shows the housing unit that, collects air and then sends it back to the core AC unit. Well, you can see the dust and, the condition of the duct work there associated with it. And again, like I mentioned earlier, these things should be cleaned and, like I said, on a regular basis. And again, you see examples of the return vent in the plenum as well as the HVAC drain system. So if that gets clogged up with dust or anything of that nature, then that could have an impact on the air quality. So again, the maintenance went in there and I've got some, so these are some of the before pictures and I've got some after pictures as well too, to demonstrate, what it should look like on a, if we're doing some of the regular preventative maintenance work. I mentioned the exhaust fans, they're really the exhaust fans, the job of them is to pull the hot air out, especially in the shower area, again, to keep the humidity and everything at a level that keeps the air circulating. We've got a number of exhaust fans that are on the roof of Williams, and this is actually the rear of Williams that kind of faces Dent Hall and the bookstore as well too. So there are about 5 here, but I think there are another 4 or so that are really on top of that building. So we have to check those and make sure that those are working properly. And we found that some of them were not working as they should. So this is one of the projects that we've kind of I've identified for the summer of next year when we can get in there and replace those fans that are on top of the building. Again, some other existing kind of conditions. That's the laundry room in Williams. You can see where there's an exit sign outside one of the doors that was in need of replacement. And then we also, we found some walls that had some insulation where we needed to kind of, as I mentioned, tear out the sheetrock and replace that insulation as well too. So here's some of the after pictures. And again, like I said, this is as of January 11th. So this was this is that door where the exit sign needed to be replaced. You can see the facilities folks are, cleaning the various areas, the common area here, where we've done some work there, replacement of baseboards along the hallways. This last picture on the right is a replacement of a shower in one of the rooms that we were able to do as well. Again, we continue to keep pest control in that building. And then this large picture on the bottom far right, just the common areas that the facility staff has kind of done a great job to get in there and get those areas cleaned up. And these pictures, this picture, the top row on the far left, This is actually the staff from ITT. Yeah, as I mentioned, they were able to kind of get in there and do some replacements to access points associated with strengthening the Wi-Fi. There's a control panel for computer technology in Williams. And if you remember this picture to the far left, this is, again, the example of the plenum unit that captures air and transfers it to the AC system. That's how it looked before. And this is how it looks now. So you can see that, where they were able to get in there, replace the ductwork, do some cleaning of that area. This picture next to it as well shows, a cleaner ductwork system associated with that plenum, and that will certainly help for air quality improvements. We also replaced some of the grills and clean those as well too on the bottom row. I mentioned replacement of the thermostat units. That's an example of the second picture here. And then these last three pictures are the facility staff, just getting in there and doing some touch-up painting, some cleaning, some sink replacement as well also. So, they really spent, I do want to commend them. They spent a lot of time trying to address those concerns, that have been identified, at least for Williams. And then again, this is just some after pictures of some upgrades that were done on the second floor where we replaced the sheetrock, some replacements, and then this far picture on the right shows the finished product. So, and again, that's of January 8th. So overall, we're probably, when we talk about some of the replacement of the major equipment and everything else, we probably have an estimated cost associated with doing everything that we need to do for Williams. And this slide just shows you some of the work that, we have targeted. And some of it, like I said, we've been able to, we probably spent about $50,000 during the spring break, during the winter break for a lot of the things that I just covered. But this is just a list of some of the things that we still will be doing either through, if we can do it during the semester, we will, but any major kind of work will probably happen in the summer of 2021. So that just gives you a list of those things that we have targeted for that. Again, we want to we heard the concerns previously, and we want to make sure that Williams becomes a building that students do want to choose and want to live there, and we're committed to making those improvements. So we're going to continue to do things like this. We thank Dr. Williams for giving us an opportunity to come before you today like this. We hope there are other opportunities to do that as well, to update you all on the projects, the capital projects that we have going on as well. So this was primarily focused to give you information on Williams. Again, we'll continue to notify the campus of projects, and we'll work with the Res Life staff as well too, as work orders are placed in the system to make sure that those are addressed right away. So I'm going to start my comments of that. And I'm going to ask Ms. Matthews, no, I always want to add an S to her name, Ms. Matthew, if she has, just to give an update on any other projects that are going on campus-wide as well too.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to report that, we've done a lot of work in are going to continue to work on cosmetic improvements inside Williams, but all other res halls as well. We are going to aggressively monitor and maintain all of the air conditioning units to make sure we have that constant air quality in every building, not just focus on Williams. We reglaze tubs in the gardens. We are going to schedule over the summer to paint walls and floors and get all of those knickknacks and eyesores cleaned up. We are going to increase the scheduling to spray sanitize in common areas to make sure that everyone knows that we're on board with being COVID ready to kind of combat all of that. And any other changes and improvements and works in progress, you'll see that as we go. We have the alumni house. We're working on getting some of that done. We had a bunch of roof damage on buildings around campus that we have to take care of. And then we are currently finishing the third block, the 3600 block in the gardens. We have a little small piece left of that to do. So we're working. We've got a lot still going on. Um, you guys need us. Facilities is in the Central Plant Building, which is behind PSB. And then I'm in Kearney if you need me. So if there are any questions outside of this, just hit me up.
And Mr. Simon, if you can address the Wi-Fi.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully everybody's doing good today. I had a conversation a while back with Dr. Bullard, and he had some concerns about the Wi-Fi situation and other issues that were impacting the students' use of technology. I'm piggybacking on Michelle and Ralph's comments earlier in the pictures. There was one picture that showed our equipment room in in Williams Hall. And if you look at that picture, and there's another picture where they show the ductwork, and you can see all the dust and everything. What I'm trying to portray is how all these things are interconnected. They may seem like two totally separate islands, but they do merge in terms of functionalities. With the dampers and et cetera, not working properly, they had experiences with condensation in some of our jacks, dust in some of our modules that impacted the speeds and what have you of the equipment. So all these improvements that facilities we're making in Williams Hall will have an impact on the overall efficiency of the ITT product. Now, moving back to Dr. Bullard's concerns, the major concern was with the Wi-Fi. As most people are aware, during the fall semester, especially with the advent of utilizing video type conferencing services, it impacted the bandwidth. It totally changed the nature of education. Nowadays, we know about elementary school kids using virtual learning and what have you. So the impact on higher ed is equally as significant. And it highlighted some of our voids, so to speak. And that major void happened to be in Gentile Gardens. I'm not going to get into the long story about the history of Gentile Gardens and why it is like it is. But if anybody wants some more detail on that, hey, please feel free to email me or call me at extension 4658, and I'll be more than glad to give you that detail. But let it be said that Gentile Garden is not fed through the whole university system like all the other residence halls, meaning that everything that we utilize over there is provided via Wi-Fi and on the TV side by a direct cable feed. The link to the overall campus setup is basically non-existent. We have minimal connectivity. So that in of itself causes a problem. And we've been able to expand over semesters, but we haven't got to the point where there is true ubiquity throughout all the residential halls. Now, when we looked at this, we had to see what steps are we going to take. So our initial steps were trying to make do to minimize any interference or problems that students in general were going to have. We put together some documentation. We went over this documentation with student engagement, housing, and within our shop. And these steps were definitely beneficial and they had an impact. However, we knew that changing Gentile Gardens would take some monumental measures, and we initiated those. Now, Dr. Bullard, his concern was, what are you doing? What are you planning on doing? And what resources do you have gathered to make sure that these things that we're planning ultimately will wind up being right? Well, first of all, we consulted with Hewlett-Packard Aruba, which is a company that is probably the leader in commercial Wi-Fi deployment and development, both from a national and international standpoint. These guys know their stuff, they're top dog. So what they actually did, they went through all of our buildings. They looked at the hot footprint. And when I say a hot footprint, it's like a heat-seeking camera. And it gives those and defines what spot needs it, what spot doesn't. It's no longer, it's not a guesswork type situation. It's a scientific algorithm designed to provide the most efficient coverage for whatever your Wi-Fi footprint is. Now, we did that on a building by building basis. Now, when I look at Williams, Hartzell, Camphor, Straight, that's a building by building. When I look at Gentile Gardens, I look at it from another perspective. The gardens as a whole, as well as the individual buildings that make up the quadrangles of Gentile Gardens. So we started with Williams. We started with Williams Hall simply because Williams was the population density point. It had more information in our system relative to students having complaints. And so we decided to prioritize our phases by the degree, the severity of the problems, Williams being first. Now, we've taken care of Williams. As you saw in the other pictures, you've seen where the people were in the ceilings, rewiring, replacement of hotspots, access points, and what have you. So Williams has already been done. We've been monitoring the post-installation work to make sure that it's meeting our QoS, our quality of service standards. And at this point in time, it is. We are continuing to monitor it, and we will continue to monitor it. Now, part and parcel of all this is our diagnostics, our measurement tools that we have in place. While we have these consultants there to design, we also have to make certain that our backbone systems are giving the proper responses in terms of adequate bandwidth, in terms of adequate throughput, in terms of adequate up speeds, down speeds, and a variety of different measurements that we take. We continue to make these measurements on, once upon a time, we were doing them on a weekly basis. Now we do them 2 or 3 times a week. All of our measurements current till today have passed. If anybody wants to get in detail, once again, give me a holler and I'll be more than happy to go over this, okay, with you. Now, once again, we've taken care of Williams Hall. The second phase is Gentile Gardens. I can't give you the exact dates because, as Ralph mentioned before, this is an area where not only do we have students in these buildings, but we also have some unique situations that I'm not going to get into right now. However, Williams is going to be a lot more extensive, Gentile Gardens is going to be a lot more extensive than Williams was. We're going to have to do some wiring and what have you. But we're looking at first quarter initiation date, and I'm hoping like heck that second quarter will allow us to see a completion date on this. Now, finally, the final phase would be Camphor, Hartzell, and Straight Hall. Historically, when these buildings came online, they were pretty much state of the art. They had the necessary infrastructure that would take care of Wi-Fi as well as hardwired connections. One of the things that has changed, everybody is aware of that dynamic with the environment. And that dynamic is, if I look 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, Zoom conferences, video services, smart TVs, all these things were not in place like they are now. There's something called, used to be when they talk about historically, say bring your own bottle. But now it's called on college campuses, bring your own device. People in my generation, okay, we tend to maybe have 1 or 2 devices, a smartphone and maybe a laptop or what have you. But the students nowadays, they have smartphones, smartwatch, smart TV, and what have you. And these all devices are utilizing Wi-Fi connections. One of the big issues we had, and show you how not familiar I was with some of the aspects that our students take as second nature. There's a game called Call of Duty. Many of your kids may know about it or what have you. But Call of Duty is what they call a first-person game. And it means that you have to respond within a nanosecond, or else you're going to get shot. So I had to sit down with a student for well over an hour to actually see what he was talking about. Now, the Wi-Fi connection slowed that down. What we did is, once we found out what the problem was, we had all the students connect their smart TVs, their gaming consoles, etc., directly to an Ethernet connection. Solve the problem. And that takes care. We don't really have those kind of problems in those dorms. However, in Camper, Hartselle, and Strait, we will go through the hotspot and the footprinting to make certain that everything is lined up correctly, and we will move on from there. Gentilly Gardens has to get to that point. Now, and thirdly, Dr. Bullard brought up something about Ethernet cords. I want to assure everybody that, number one, we have already initiated providing cords to students at no charge. We did that last semester. We're doing it again this semester. There was a talk that Ethernet cords are going out, it's on the way out. That's not true. What's happening in today's age is unique operating systems, an MacBook, does not have a port. They have a proprietary port that you need to have an interface, an adapter. That adapter is plugged into the machine, which is then plugged into the Ethernet, which is then plugged into whatever your connection is. On the flip side of that, you see that laptops, tablets, and what have you are getting slimmer and slimmer. When they cut down on the size, there is no longer room for an adapter, for a plug, for an Ethernet connection, nor in many cases, not even a USB. In fact, you'll see the new USB type connections are smaller than the traditional ones. That is done to facilitate the more compact nature of these devices. So we're going to find that adapters will be required on a device-specific basis. There's no way to get around it, but understand for certain that Ethernet ports, Ethernet access is not going away. It's simply being modified to handle other areas. That's pretty much it. And if somebody has additional questions, you feel free to holler at me right now.
So thanks, Terry. One other thing I wanted to add as well too is some of the students may be aware that the university has been conducting a search for a new facilities director. So we've kind of narrowed that down to the couple of final applicants, and I'm looking to make that decision very soon. So we'll have some new leadership in the area of facilities, like I said, hopefully very soon.
Great. Thank you all for these updates. We really appreciate it. Ms. Michelle, any other important updates for us?
Yeah, so for me, on the auxiliary side, the ID office is still virtual. So if you guys have any issues with your ID cards, make sure you send an email to idphoto@dillard.edu. If that escapes you, always feel free to contact me. But I need you guys, if you have any issues with not being able to tap into class, get into your res halls to access those doors, or any meal plan issues, even with your bookstore dollars, give me a call, send an email to idphoto@dillard.edu so we can resolve that as soon as possible. As far as the shuttle, regular hours are going to resume for the shuttle on Monday. I know we have the modified schedule because everyone was working online or at home for these last 2 weeks. But Monday we will start the regular schedule. It did not change from the fall 2020 schedule. I think I did and ResLife sent it out. If you need it, just hit me up with an email, or Dr. Courtney, we have those available for you. The same thing with the post office. If you're a new student, make sure that you have your Dillard issued ID. And if you're a residential student, then you would take your ID to the post office to get your campus post office box so mom, dad, the church, and all those scholarship funds can come to the right box, right? If you guys have any questions on the dining hall, you can always contact Miss Yolanda or me. And the same thing with the bookstore. You can contact Miss Lucy or me. I know we have the new all-inclusive program for your books. And I know that that kind of gets a little jumbled up. So again, give me a call, give me an email. Let me know if you have any problems so we can fix that immediately. Thanks, guys. And I hope you have a great semester.
Thank you so much, Miss Michelle. So you all, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A box right now before we wrap up. We'll be happy to answer those. We also want to answer the other question that I've received about 25 times, and probably Miss Michelle too. So what are we doing next week now that we're in modified phase 2? Well, guess what? We're in modified phase 2 on campus as well. So we'll be sending out an email today to give you updates on campus life, community service, all those things. So that will be coming out shortly, and that will contain the updates. I want to be very clear, modified phase 2 is not phase 4. So we are not going back to last year's normal or the new normal or the next normal quite yet. So we still have to be very careful and very cautious to make sure that we keep down the spread of COVID-19. We did have a slight spike recently, so we want to remind you all to wear your mask, wash your hands, stay socially distant. Just because we are going into phase 2 does not mean we need to see people outside all up on each other, people sitting on each other's laps and all that. Yes, we see it, don't we, Miss Michelle? We see everything. So y'all, please make sure that you are making the right decisions on behalf of not just yourself, but for our entire community. Remember, we're a small campus, so even, 1 to 5 people having it could cause a severe outbreak on campus. So let's make sure that we are very, very careful. We do not see any questions in the chat box nor the Q&A, so we're going to wrap up right now. If you do have questions, feel free to email any of the panelists, or you can email myself or Dr. Bullard. We will be sure to get your questions answered. As always, we will share this webinar on Twitter right after this. Thank you all for coming. Y'all have a great Friday.
Thank you.